you're muted.
No judging if you're eating, during our meeting.
Yeah, this is a tough time for me.
I know it is. It completely is. I think we're all a little bit lucky maybe that we have the kitchen maybe just like 2 doors down, instead of a mile and a half down the road. But anyway, yeah, let's call the meeting to order. So, thank you, Perry, for sending out the minutes and agenda this afternoon. I appreciate it. Sounds like your new staff are getting their pieces in order. They know what to do.
It's been crazy. We had a COVID situation within my department, and it affected myself and I'm not actually allowed. It affected another person within our office, leaving. I actually got this information as I was driving to work on Wednesday morning. I have a new transportation scheduler, the other person in our office, starting Wednesday morning. And I had to call that person and say, I'm sorry, but you're on your own. Good luck. Yeah, I'm in quarantine for 14 days. I won't be going back to December 30th. And yeah, it's
November 30th.
November 30th. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you might have vacation right backed up against it. So
yeah, I had wishful thinking there, but actually, no. It's actually, it sounds great, I get to stay home and work from home, but it's like lopping an arm off and trying to play football or something. It's terrible because I tell people I get a lot of bills, invoices that come through my office. A lot of things need to be addressed. We take on all the UPS packages and FedEx and everything, and that all gets affected now.
Yeah, well, you get to exercise new muscles, Perry. You'll come out the other side better for this.
I'll tell you, I'm actually standing tonight just to get some movement. I thought I'd try standing for the meeting instead of sitting so much, but it's been a challenge. A matter of fact, the town manager just sent me an email this afternoon for some information that he needs for Encore, which I think we have in our documents. It's the different accounts, and I guess they're looking to see how we want the funds to be split up, into the different accounts that we have with CMP, and he needs that information as far as the account numbers and stuff. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
I think I have that in some of the documentation I sent out, so I think I can dig it up in emails. But like I said, it's terrible to try to work from home. I don't have files here or anything, So.
I've never been to your office, Perry, but I can imagine it's the kind of office where you've got filing cabinets and books and gear all over the place, right? And various parts of heating equipment laying in a corner.
Yeah,
something you probably need to have access to regularly.
I have 3 large horizontal cabinets in my office alone, and I think 3 computers as well. Different things, ID badges and video cameras and door access and things like that. Yeah, it all comes out of there. But yeah, just kind of, I really felt bad for this new employee because, put yourself in their shoes. Today's your first day of work, and the next 14 days you're on your own. I mean, with no training or anything.
Well, that's the deep end. Throw right in. Let's time to swim.
He's taking it like a champ, though. He's definitely rising to the occasion. So yeah, I think
you're a Zoom call away. Yeah. You're only a Zoom call away.
Yeah, so that's what I tell everybody.
Could be worse.
They can get me by phone or text message or whatever. I'll try to be in the loop as much as I can.
Good. Well, I'm glad that's it's a bad situation, but I'm glad you're so far it's not catastrophic. So
right.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, it definitely could be worse.
Yeah. Good. Well, I don't know if he or you put the minutes together, but thank you so much for doing that. I had a chance to look them over. I don't know if anybody else did, but I would parliamentary procedure. I would move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second?
You got a second from John.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So passed. All right, get that right? Carrie, how's that sound? My parliamentary procedure coach.
Yeah. I'm not
All
sure
right.
what eating falls into parliamentary.
Jeez.
All right, cool, good. All right, with that out of the way, do we have any public here wishing to make a comment at today's meeting?
We have no, let me double check, no public here.
Okay. Got it. No? Okay. So, all right, good. Moving on then. No public comments for today's meeting. All right, let's move on to the fun stuff. So I figured we would get hit two major items. Perry, you read my mind from the agenda. There's probably not much more. Well, there's probably more we can talk about, but just to keep things nice and succinct, let's get caught up on where the solar stuff is, and then we can chat a bit about the electric vehicle charging application proposal process and kind of where we are on that. And if folks have things they want to weigh in on that. Both came up last week during the town council meeting. So Matt Sturgis was great, and he kind of ushered those two topics through town council. Perry and I were on hand to jump in if anything went haywire, and it didn't, which was great. One of the town councilors on the solar motion, Richard, who was that? It was a woman whose name is. Anyway, she was wondering about kind of the deals, if this was like a good deal or not for us. And she wanted to almost kind of like to be recapped on the whole process. And Matt very quickly nipped that in the bud and said, we've already been through this.
Yeah. Yeah, he handled that pretty well.
We agree this is a good contract.
Her question was basically, how much money is the town going to save? That was her question.
Yeah, that was it. Right. So that's right. Exactly right. Anyway, the motion to approve the solar contract, passed with flying colors, and the motion to approve our submitting an application to the EV charging stations for efficiency main was also approved. So that was really good. So it is now at this point, as far as I know, I haven't actually spoken with Matt since the contract has been signed, but they're just going through the process. Like maybe Perry, you know more than anybody at this point, because you've actually heard from Matt or heard from Perry from Encore about kind of what's needed. But things are just kind of happening now. And is there a role for the Energy Committee at this point with that project?
So no, it's just numbers.
John, I see you can.
Yeah.
You can.
I was gonna say the only thing about the I thought would be useful to add to the messaging around the charging station piece is just a little context. My recollection is that this is grants that are being administered by Efficiency Maine, but are coming from some of the Volkswagen settlement money. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, that's right.
And so this is sort of one-time money, and you got to get your hand up, which is what we're doing. So understanding where that money is coming from, it's not just, it's not even coming from the state. It's coming from a settlement that the state's getting a piece of. I think that's helpful to the messaging, because I think that's the kind of thing where there's no lose side to this. This is not coming out of your tax dollars. This is putting your hand up to say, I want to get my piece.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point on the messaging too. Messaging for the solar part. And then we've kind of talked about that. If we want to get out there and
the solar messaging is, I think, a little different, a little more
solar panels,
complex, but particularly around why we're able to put our hand up for someone to pay for 80% of the cost of putting in charging stations. That is. I think understanding how that came to be is helpful for the messaging whenever we talk about it, saying this is a situation, this happened, and we're putting up our hand for it, and it's a good thing for the town. So that was as I sort of reflected on it, I think the context is lost on people, and it's helpful. And that also gives people the feeling, which I think is correct, that, you know, people like the Energy Committee and the Town Council are out there actively looking for these kind of opportunities and vigilant about it. So I think that's really, it's helpful. I mean, I think they already sort of have that feeling, but being able to give that color to it is helpful.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not sure if there's much. I mean, I don't think that we didn't get any pushback from any of the town council members.
No, I don't think we did. I think as we talk about it in the future, we're probably going to have to come back for a final approval, et cetera. It's just we want to have it as part of our talking points. You describe how it all came together and just sourcing where that money's coming from, which we didn't really do. But that's the main thing.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Yeah, that makes me think also about the solar kind of, you know, rollout part, right? You know, now that this contract is in place and signed, you know, there's going to be construction, there's going to be a lot of activity in Hubbub, and we also, I think, we wanted to, you know, offer people in town kind of, you know, other opportunities, perhaps to, you know, to go solar on their own. I know I've gotten questions from people who were, you know, getting solicitations from companies around the community solar opportunities. So I think we mentioned that would be something we could maybe try to at least educate, you know, members around.
Sam, I think I think that there's not very good resources out there for people who want to investigate those options. Like I had a friend this week ask me about it, and I haven't really had time to look into them all myself. But I don't know that there's I don't know that there's good information for consumers about all these programs, and I don't think most people understand them. And I don't know how. Like, it seems like we might have a role in there.
Yeah, I think you do.
About.
Yeah.
Could we offer, excuse me,
Let me give an example of what's going on. So I was invited to make a presentation to the St. George Tenants Harbor group. They have a fair. They call their little, they had a remote solar fair. And in that solar fair, they were supposed to have a physical one. And so in that, they invited a few of us to participate and give us the ideas of what this whole community solar thing was for residential. So, I mean, that's just an example of what we might do, or just do something like create some informational packages. What's happening now, of course, Carrie, as you just already alluded to, is that people are getting mass mailers left and right. Okay, I'm getting them, you're getting them. I even work with ones and sell a few myself.
I have one right here because I thought I should try to figure out what it was saying.
Yeah, iSolar, and it's good. It's a decent thing. I actually sell some of their product. But the most important thing is we can set up a situation. We could even bring in someone to do the same thing. We have this mechanism here for people to be part of our public meeting, right? We could do that. I don't know.
Or could we do a workshop through the library?
Well, that's a great idea, Barbara.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about a document where we explained what the potential terms would be and what they mean. And so just to give people a tool into how to evaluate different programs.
You know, that's all good. The reason why Tenants Harbor and St. George went the way they did is they're afraid of giving information out themselves. I know this is, they'd rather have people come in who are marketing it and explain their situation that way. And there's the obvious reason for that. Okay, we could take that role, but I'm a little uncomfortable taking that role, and I don't think it's necessary. And that's just my opinion.
So I think a way sort of to meet both desires is, I think there's a lot of interest. I think people don't understand the material. I think what Carrie was suggesting in terms of an informational packet that is independent of any provider is helpful.
Frankly, I think that the PUC should be putting out this information.
I agree with you.
They actually do, Carrie, but
So
you know, the piece who's going to put
I'd be
it out
happy
way
to
back
work with
to
them, and we should be happy to work with them to do it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
there. It's
but
there
they-
in the documents.
But I
Who's
think you
supposed
could. I think you could have like a solar energy or an energy sort of festival or event where we set like almost like an RFP. Here's the criteria we have for you to come and participate to interested parties in our town. And that way, it's like we just set what the criteria are, and then the communications, like you got to meet, a bar that we set, just like we did with our RFP, and say, we're inviting people in. They'll need to meet these criteria, and then the communication is direct between the group and the providers. They can come on and do their presentation direct.
Well, I think, John, you're right too. But I think Barbara has hit something where the question is, how do we get this thing out, the publicity out, through what sources? And there's only a finite, even though there's a lot of developers and a lot of farms, there's only a finite number of people actually marketing these. I pretty much know every one of them. And some of them going direct, but mostly you're going to find about a half a dozen of these people who's going to say basically the same thing, but you could invite them and I make a call and get them in. They love to make presentations, okay, obviously. But I don't think that's an issue. We could certainly organize that very fast. But I think that what Barbara alluded to is that how do we really get it out there so people actually respond to it? Because this is, we got 9,000 residents and a lot of people just don't pay attention to this stuff. Like we invite people to participate in our meetings, right? Public-wise, how many people have we had, on Zoom, so it's
to a certain extent. And again, this we have to be careful about how this puts us in the middle or not. To a certain extent, there may be a role to play in communication and aggregation if you'll actually get a better deal. I mean, when they used to put in cable TV, when the whole Solar City model was based on doing it neighborhood by neighborhood to lower the overall install costs.
Yeah.
And same thing here is if you can put it on the individual citizens to organize, but if you can go to them and say, if you're able to get 200 customers or more, we'll give you this better deal.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But again, we can't take a role actively between them.
I really wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go there, John. I really wouldn't. And I don't know if you can have a lot to gain knowing this way this business is, because really it's not like they don't look at the residential. They look at each HELOC score, or they'll look at them very much individuals. They have to administrate each one of them individually. So it's a little different. And I don't know if we should cross that line. We should just be informational people and facilitators here in this case. That's just my opinion on this. Okay.
The library is always looking for programs, and they're doing a lot of stuff now on Zoom calls and stuff and Zoom presentations. And I think possibly a place to start is very basic. If we just had, if someone from this committee, for instance, just went and said, this is what, in analyzing these programs and analyzing all these letters that you're getting, these are the things that you need to look at.
Yep.
These are the questions you need to ask so that you can compare them.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're getting in the middle of anything. We're just telling people this is how you're smart and how you analyze.
Yeah, that's the kind of information I was imagining in this.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Brochure.
How the program works and what to look for.
Yeah. I have to say, this Relay Power who sent me the letter, they don't provide any information that I find useful in evaluating.
Well, they don't. But Carrie, what is a letter? It's a marketing letter. It's a teaser.
Right. I just went on their website now.
Yeah.
There's no information on the website.
And I can tell you that iSolar is the same company as Common Energy, is the same company as Syncopar, who they're representing. They represent other people the same way. It's almost like a shell game. Okay. They Rely, iSolar, Common Energy, they're all the same group.
Well, yeah, so what I was thinking was if we told them what to look at to evaluate the program, they wouldn't be able to evaluate it because I did what this brochure told me to do and it's not providing me any information.
No, they want you to go through.
That itself is valuable.
No, what
I was
the
just saying,
information they're giving you,
that
Carrie,
itself is valuable.
what they're giving you, Carrie, is a number to call, don't they? 617
Yes,
number or
but if I
something?
don't want to call the number, I want to just make a
Right.
brochure.
No, well, that isn't the way they're working, because they got a commission thing going on, they got a team there, and this is how they do it. You're looking at a teaser, that's all you're looking at.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So we have people who are asking, I don't know if you guys have this, I have friends who are saying,
Yep.
how do I know which one to sign up for? So I have to know what the terms are before I can
Yep,
help them figure that
absolutely.
out.
And they do have different terms. So some of them have different out clauses. And that's one big thing, obviously. There's a difference between one and the other. Some of them have certain HELOC scores, other ones don't, credit scores. Those are a couple of variables. And we can do that, Richard, that's a good idea. We can put up an information sheet. A lot of that information, by the way, is on the disclosure statements. They would
fine
get.
print, right?
See,
It's hard to
what
read.
they're going to get is
legalese.
like the commercial. I've seen this. So here's the paperwork. They sign up for it. They give permission to look at their bills. Let's say, okay. They look at the bills. They make the company like iSolar or Common or Relay is going to make a recommendation under the 100%, right? And then they'll start sending contracts out, and the contracts will show the terms, and then they have to send a disclosure statement to go with it, just like they would for any other process. So we could look at each contract of these people. There's a finite number. We could analyze them. We could look at the disclosure statement, which is a general thing that people have to look out for. And
I'm not proposing that we analyze the programs. I'm just proposing we find out enough about them so that we can tell people what to look out for. Because I don't think we want to be in the business of analyzing programs. I think that's liability-wise is risky.
Do we know who else is doing this? I would think maybe the governor's office, Energy's office, would be thinking about this as a service.
It should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I
I bet they
could call
don't.
Dan Burgess and ask him if
Yeah.
anyone's doing that.
It's the MPUC. It's all regulatory, right? Because there's only certain things people can do.
I went on the PUC website to see what they were doing, and I didn't find anything. I found something on retail suppliers, but these aren't necessarily. This is that's something different.
But all I'm saying is they have to be regulated to at some point. All I'm saying, Carrie, I'm not saying that we'll analyze. I'm saying that we can look at, we can make some of the most obvious comments that we already know on the top of our heads, but we can also look at disclosure statements to help them with their legal side of it before they get it. We can look at a couple contracts to know what to look for as well. We'll get a lot of good key into as to one versus the other. We don't have to recommend anybody. We can just put out some questions and ask the Q&As. That's all. I mean, I can think
What was the company that you were looking at, Gary?
Relay Power.
Relay?
Yep.
Relaypower.com.
Yep.
And they sent me this brochure that doesn't really say anything, and then their website doesn't say anything.
10%, this is typical 10% off the bill.
You save 10%. I think it said that somewhere.
Yep.
But I'm not
Usually they say up to a number.
No, it's all 10% because see, in the residential business, you don't have to worry about the kilowatts, okay, extra kilowatts to pay for. So they can just pull it right off the bill and say, so you don't have to worry about monetizing the bill like we have to with the commercial. They just take it right off the bill. It's not, it does say up to, but it is, everybody's doing 10% now. And there's only one company that's doing 15% is Nexamp. But they have a different criteria.
Gift card if you sign up.
So really, it really is numbers. When are you building the solar farm, right? When can you start saving? What are your termination? So this general termination, right? The PUC in the disclosure statement says if you move in the service territory, you can take it with you. If you move out of the service territory, you can void the contract under any circumstance. But you can sell you can give it to the next person who owns the house. Those are general not only guidelines, rules that all these companies have to go through. That's why the disclosure statement is really important. They don't get that disclosure statement until after they start signing up. Then they have to read it, and then they make the final decision. Those are part of that. Then there are other things such as individual termination clauses. So one of them has 90 days, one of them has 6 months, one of them has no termination clause where you could actually terminate anytime you want. There are differences between these different companies. Some are at 10%, some are at 15%. I know all these, I've seen all these contracts before. But those are the typical questions that you will have. But all I'm saying is that you can look at the disclosure statement that MPUC puts out, and you can look at a couple of the contracts, and you can pretty much figure out what you can send over for
This is perfect,
Q&A.
Sam. This thing you sent.
Oh yeah, I found something. I was poking around, seeing who else has produced something that would be useful to consumers who don't read the fine print on anything really.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think what if it would be a good service to our constituents if we produce something like this that could at least kind of spell out in plain English, kind of what are they getting, why are they getting it, you know, and how do they make sense of it?
Do you think
it'd be great if it came from the state, maybe?
Would a resource council have something on that, you think?
The NRCM, did you say?
What is the nonprofit group that
But
is always
New England Clean Energy?
not new, the main
NRCM?
council of whatever main
Oh,
council.
Natural Resources Council of Maine?
Yeah, I mean they put out a lot of stuff in that respect.
Yeah, but they're like an advocacy organization. I mean, I think they do good work, but I don't know if
It's
they
kind
are.
of advocacy, Sam. This is, you know, in that respect, you know, they are promoting obviously the use. If you don't have your residents using this stuff, you're not gonna get their vote. You're not gonna get participation.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's a bunch of. So I'm just saying that I can come up with a typical Q&A process.
They do. Good idea.
Oh, I know.
It's not what we need. It's saying that community solar is good for Maine. It's not saying if it's good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that would be helpful, I think, is if you're a consumer that gets one of these, you know, how do you make sense of it? You know, and what do you know what to do with it? And again, like there are competing, you know, there are competing companies that are out here trying to get your attention, get you sign up, and so. Anyway, so maybe you know, I can reach out to Dan at the governor's office, or Carrie if you know him, but I know him fairly well. I can ask him about this.
Either way, if you want to, that's fine, or I can.
I can ask if they're working on something like this, and if not, I mean, I would
do
propose.
think it might be the PUC's job. I think whoever said that is.
So I'm super interested because I'm also likely to sign up for one of these things probably pretty soon myself.
You should.
Good. So you can sign up and get the disclosures.
Pardon?
You can sign up and get the disclosures.
Wait.
Yeah.
I'm
Name and email and stuff.
from several
Carrie,
companies.
you get the disclosure online, but the point is, Carrie, are you getting the $50 thing out of that? There's a new one for $150 Amazon thing on that relay thing, you know.
Oh, really?
You better go after me. You got to start
we
doing
have
some
solar
work
on
here.
our roof, so I don't know that we'll sign up for this, but that's good to know. But I had a friend of mine posted on a mom's group that I was on about how to figure this out. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you this online, but I'll talk to you about it offline.
You know, Sam, it's really good. If we find somebody who has organized and put something together on this, then at least we're just passing it on and using it as a as an information tool. That'd be really great if you can find somebody. If we can find somebody.
Yeah, well, I'll see if it's already happening in Maine. And maybe it's something that GPCOG, you know, would do as well, I think.
Yeah.
Seems like
Well, GPCOGS is interesting because that really gets a big group of people. If you're able to get an information sheet on community solar out to all the communities in GPCOGS, that's a big impact.
Yeah.
That's where the people who are marketing these things, they would care about that. That's a big chunk of Maine right there of community solar prospects.
All right. So whatever. Let's come up with something. Sam,
It's a nice feather in the cap of GPCOGS too, because it's very responsive to what's going on right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, I'll look into that.
You know, the other a group that should be doing this. Is the consumer advocate in Maine should be doing this. I mean,
Sure.
their job is to make sure that customers are getting a good deal on
Mm.
these kinds of things, and so they should be interested in this too.
I wonder if there's been any complaints on this stuff yet.
Well,
There's a, yeah.
I don't know that any of the solar farms are actually online.
No, they're not, but the advertisement itself could be,
Yeah.
is there any predatory stuff going on in terms of the sign up part? Because, most of these, as opposed to the commercial side, a lot of the residential stuff is coming out of big teams, organized teams out of state, okay? Basically telemarketers, all right? And so I can name a couple of them that do this professionally. And all they do is they go on to this, look at up every solar company or every developer they can see on, that's been registered, and they'll go after all of them. I've had several people call me to do the same thing, and they say they all have teams to solicit. So a lot of the stuff now is on, that may be of interest to whatever agency, So
the consumer advocate, I think, is a good point, because I mean, there've been some black eyes in the retail energy space previously.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah, prominently.
But most importantly, to keep it simple, if we can find a document out there that's already been published for this by any of the organizations, we pass it on if it's a good one, and we may add it on too, and then we get it out to. We get it out to the local newspaper, the library, wherever we need to get it out to. That'll be worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
On the city site, the town site.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of our job is to provide this service, to the town and townspeople.
We are advocates too, huh? So there we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Oh, wait, look.
What do you get?
Here it is. There is a brochure on the Consumer Advocates website on Community Solar.
Yay!
Is it
I'm not
community
sure
residential or is it just community period?
No,
Community
it's got
solar.
Community Solar.
Nice. Okay.
So there's
good.
questions to ask the company to better understand the offer.
Yeah.
Where's this, Carrie?
I
put it in the chat.
I put a link in the chat.
Mm.
They're pretty basic, but
It's, yeah, I mean, it could be better.
Yeah.
still, but if we
Community
were to
solar in
hand somebody
Illinois.
this,
There you go. Yeah, is that Illinois? Yeah.
when I said was
The first one,
Illinois,
Sam is from Illinois. Mine is from the Maine Consumer Advocate.
Grace is
Oh,
more
okay.
relevant.
Oh, yours is Illinois. Will you give me this Illinois stuff, Sam?
I'm just looking for pretty examples.
Sam's brochure is a better
I
explanation.
googled consumer community solar. That's what came up.
All right.
But yeah, these are good. Yeah, this provides good questions. So
Okay, so just to be clear, we don't want to fight people in, participants, marketers. We want to just get information and get it out there. Is that what we want to do in general?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to steer away towards kind of creating like a bazaar, so to speak. But at the same time, I do like the idea of having an energy fair, where we bring people together in theory and talk about ways that residents in town and businesses can save energy.
Yeah.
Or embrace clean power. I'm not sure how that would look. I mean, I know I've seen like you said, Sam. There was a solar fair in a town that you were in recently,
Right.
and they have those. But I think that'd be a good thing to do. I mean, I can imagine cutting the ribbon for our EV stations, for example.
Yeah.
Would be a good time to do that.
The brochure is pretty basic, so maybe we could just offer a workshop type thing, question and answer thing through the library as well, just to promote the idea and answer people's questions in more detail.
So in some respects, I think, particularly for something at the library, I think it helps to almost go back and start with a 2 to 3 minute just explanation of solar power and why the economics are attractive that have now enabled this kind of community solar type of projects? Because there's still a lot of misinformation out there about what solar costs and how it's sort of fits into the energy supply. And you know, the advances in the last 20, 30 years have really made things like this really possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's general information. That's good. But I noticed, Carrie, in your on this site that you picked up, the main OPA site, that there's more questions that can be asked. We can put a lot more in there. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that sheet really helps anyone evaluate between programs. It just helps them.
I think we could do a better job. I mean, I know I personally think I could do a Q&A session and really put a lot of questions out there that might be helpful to them.
Let's
Now,
put
as far as the
together
general information on community solar.
Yeah.
That's just of course you have to talk about what it is first. What are we talking about here? Okay. And all they care about in your brochure, Carrie, is the fact you're saving money. They don't even focus on, you know, anything else. They could care less.
Well, I think the idea of having like a little seminar or a workshop or whatever you want to call it, at the library would be great. I mean, it would be a good chance, you know, to talk about our towns, you know, kind of new solar project. And
so from a town perspective, this is also something that towns should be interested in encouraging and tracking. It'd be great to know what percentage of your town has either direct or community solar type electric providers. It's the kind of thing you will want to track going forward to know what the profile of your town is. And so as we sort of go into this, I'm sort of thinking, what's the town role in sort of being able to keep track of it and or encourage this and or encourage people to cooperate with them keeping track of it? Right now we're at a relatively low level. We'd love to get to a higher level. So how does the town encourage and track that kind of a thing? I don't have an answer, but I think it's worth, rather to think about it and ask it now as we sort of go forward, because I think it could be really worthwhile. And I think when you report on it, it encourages people to think about it. If you're saying, you know, we started at year 1 and we had 15% participation, we're at year 2 and 25% of the town is, you know, using green power. Those kind of ability to track it and publicize the tracking of it is really helpful.
Yeah, I think the publicity is great to have. I think it's great. It's a great focus. And I think, yeah, as we all probably know, we're in a kind of town that will be very much in favor of what this whole process. So we have an advantage as opposed to Jackman, Maine.
It's as dumb as saying we'd like to encourage you to report that if you're using green energy, and if you come on the town website and fill out your form, we'll give you $1. I don't know what the right incentive or whatever that is, but it's like, you know, the total cost of that would be like $3,000 for the whole town, which would be cheap.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, well, so I like the idea of surveying the town, surveying residents and
is it something that is
about their approaches to this, their feelings around energy, time.
Are you talking about doing it? So there are obviously different surveys have different prejudices to them. Okay, so if you're talking about surveying something before you give them information, it's a lot different than surveying after you send information out. So what are we trying to accomplish here? And that's an important thing. Go on, John, please.
Yeah, I don't think it's something you want to be able to measure by survey. I think you actually want people reporting somehow in a way that's tied to, that you actually
need a
get
thermometer, like a little thermometer on the website with number.
And some incentive for self-reporting.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first thing we do, I think as we discussed before, I think getting information out first, and this is a way of actually measuring the effectiveness of that information as well. We need to get something out there because as you said, John, I focus on what the Q&As are with people sending an advertisement, but people simply don't even know what community solar is in the first place. So we gotta do a lot better job, or do a job, in order to really educate people, because most people look at, you know, I've talked to even a lot of companies don't even know what's going on here. So I think that's really very, very good. We have to start and put it.
I think doing something at the library sooner rather than later is a great idea, because people know something's up. They know all of a sudden I'm being marketed to by all these different people. And so it does have their attention in that way. And being able to say, to sort of explain what the market forces and what's happening out there in the energy markets, that you're getting these calls and solicitations is valuable.
There's a list, there's a link in that document to a list of all the different community solar companies that are registered in Maine. There are a lot of companies.
Yeah.
A lot.
But as I say, there's only so many marketing in the residential community.
Yeah.
They go through three. Most of them don't have their own personnel to call people. They don't have a marketing team. They hire out people like Relay, iSolar, Common Energy. They come in different forms. A lot of them are the same company, and others do. So even Nexamp goes through another. I forgot the name of the company out of Massachusetts, who do a lot of the community solar marketing for a lot of the groups. So there's only a finite number of these marketing groups that are actually participating and actually soliciting. And you probably find in your mail at some point, every one of them. But
let's put together a little seminar or workshop, you know, like
Sure.
an hour event at the library.
Some PowerPoints.
Yeah, a little Q&A thing, a little introduction. This is what
Yeah.
this is what you're
Sure.
this is what you're getting. This is why you're getting them.
I'll give you my PowerPoint. You can use it.
Sounds good. Do we need to go through any sort of formal process with the town to approve our putting on something like this?
I think always getting the blessing from them is good. I don't think it's going to take a lot to do that.
Just a shout out to
Mary. Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, I think that would be as simple as just talking to the town manager about it.
Mhm.
I don't think it would have to go to council or anything.
No.
Right.
Yeah, we are a committee of the town, blessed by the town, so we kind of have to adhere to that.
Cool.
Do we need the equivalent of that forward-looking statement slide for the presenting information to the town?
John, go on. I've lost you on that one.
So on financial presentations, all earnings presentations, there's a whole little disclaimer that they put up about forward-looking statements.
Oh, no.
My question was, do we need an equivalent of that? I don't think we do, but.
No, a few slides. I'm telling you, it's not hard to explain this if you break it down properly. Okay, it's a couple pages, and then some Q&As, and then take some questions.
Yeah,
would be very nice, I think. And that's always. And believe me, I've done about 3 or 4 of these already, and people will dominate your time fast. You don't have to say too much. Okay. If you spend about 10 minutes explaining the process, you will get tremendous amounts of feedback right away for all those who will be online with you.
Very specific questions.
Oh, it really is. But my only feeling is, so I know small town like St. George, but there's still only a dozen people who are on that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, where does it get to? And that's the other problem. We may get people on a Zoom meeting who are going to be there anyway because they like solar, they know solar, they want to hear more about it. They're always looking for it. The question is, once we do this, how do we get it to everybody? Or as many people as we can. That's why. This is pretty simple making a presentation. It's more difficult to get to everybody.
So I would suggest that we do the presentation and consider publishing the presentation out of FAQ. so that it's available, and that you can actually is the kind of thing that your local journalists and folks can cover, and they have basically the meeting happened and they have resources to point to, and we have resources to point to.
It ought to go into the Cape Courier.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can put it as a link on the What Time website.
Yeah. Right. But what I'm saying is, if you put this together in a thoughtful way, you'll probably get multiple press people who want to cover it, and then as long as we just take down every question people asked and the answer, and roughly what the answers are, then you can basically publish, here's the presentation and here was the FAQ or the Q&A piece of it.
We can put it on the Cape Pod Facebook group and all that.
Yep.
Sort of stuff.
Yeah, it'll get out pretty quickly.
Well, I don't think the the New York Post or the Times are going to do it because they're on that voter fraud thing. I think they're too busy to do this thing. But otherwise, we could get somebody like. Would I skip? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
We'll get in the forecast.
I heard that they're actually digging up Cesar Chavez right now.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's Franco. That's what they should.
He wasn't blamed. Chavez was.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Oh, goodness. Anyway.
Speaking of this community, I think I love this idea. This is really, really exciting. Do we want to, is the town, or do we want to be a part of kind of some fanfare around the solar development that we're kind of, that we're behind? I think we discussed there would be a nice idea, to have some sort of public, showing around it.
Yeah, like a ribbon cutting?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe so we'll have to wait for a while, but I can't tell if the town, wants to do anything splashy around it.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah,
They should. I mean, and they didn't mention your name in the last newspaper article. They just,
it was a better article than the other one.
Next year, right?
But overall, I thought the town got excellent coverage out of
yeah,
that.
they did. Yeah, they did. They really did.
But if it wasn't pandemic times, absolutely we should and do something. But we should think about. So I think we should. But my guess is the time frame for that is probably in the new year.
Yeah, next year when it's built.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe if we can't have a groundbreaking ceremony, maybe we can have a ribbon cutting ceremony. Maybe by then we can all be together.
Yeah, we would wait a lot. If we're waiting for it to be built, or even close to be built, we're probably going to lose the. It should be happening sooner than later. Obviously, we don't want to be throwing snowballs at the groundbreaking ceremony, but other than that, I think that will be a nice enhancement. And again, Barbara, I get sad when I hear maybe next year it gets built. Right now, the way things are going, next year is going to be optimistic. And I'm sad to tell you that, the way things are going in this business. Anyway.
You want to give us a quick backgrounder on kind of, on why that's, I mean.
What I just said? Yeah, I know
Yeah, I mean,
myself in trouble here. Yeah.
Because people want to know,
Well, we have an advantage. The biggest advantage we have is there's not going to be anybody on that substation. We're going to be the first one in for the studies. For Encore is going to be able to do the studies. That's great stuff. But what's happened here happens practically anywhere else is beyond all the permitting that gets done and the time it takes, and the fact that there's 500 and something projects in CMP and they're all getting backed up, and DEP's getting backed up. We're also, I can tell you from some projects I have, we went through the first studies and then they said, oh, wait a minute, we've got so many developers, we're going to do a cluster study now. And that cluster study involves, they look at a substation and say, well, individually, you may be great, but if everybody in your area is involved, we have to see what the total effect is, all the substations. So now it becomes this extra study. And these studies are taking a long time because they're being backed up. All I'm saying is, my first project started probably about, where started permitting, probably just about the time the bill was passed. I'm thinking that maybe I'll get started building this thing in the spring. So this has been a year.
So you're seeing a massive slowdown on the electrical permitting side.
Big. So we're going to be lucky to get it in the ground this year, next year. Okay, we
Anything,
really are.
anything out there on the horizon that would speed that up?
No, because there's a couple of things that have been happening. The problem with Maine is there is a growth. There's a learning curve. Okay, and what's happened here is they've come up against the wall with distribution and too many projects, and now they've called in ISO New England to help them out do these cluster studies, and so
Called it who?
ISO New England people out of ISO New England, and so they're progressing through a process that's a little bit, it's kind of difficult, and they don't have a real handle themselves on what the end results of when it's going to happen. Plus, although it isn't in our territory, Versant has absolutely, the Emera Versant people have absolutely fallen on their faces, and they're causing a big ripple effect.
What?
The northern utility, the Versant people, Emera up north, have caused such problems with this whole situation, and I can just, without naming all the problems, they've caused a ripple effect throughout the state, and a lot of hand wringing here. But look, I'm being pessimistic, but I'm just saying that timelines are just not where they're planned to be. If we get it built, we even get started building next year, I'll be really happy. We may not. Okay.
That's good to know. Yeah, just it's at a high level what to share with folks who ask.
Yeah. But I don't want to get too much into the weeds, because then it becomes too complicated. I just, we just, so this brings me to another subject. And we were talking about this. We've already talked about this, guys. We certainly would like to save money earlier, right? And so the idea is a couple of things that we talked about. We need to have supplemental power sales, or to have somebody take us our slack up for the power we can't build on our landfill. Yep. And if we can, we need to have a company who will be building earlier take the reins and maybe allow us to save some money before we build the project on all of the electricity. Okay, so I think we've talked about this. I think Thomas suggested, and we decided to wait till this whole thing gets started and then talk about it again. And so are we on board? I mean, Matt's on board with stuff already. Tom, he just said, save money. What is this all about, right? Let's do it. But I think we need to think about really doing this now, because the time is essential, because a lot of these farms obviously are soliciting subscribers, and the further you go down the road, the further you get before you get started. So if everybody is in concert to doing it in as a concept, we've got to let's figure out how we can present this to the people that we have already had bidders on, and I even have a couple of new people who want to come in and jump in on this thing. Okay.
Yeah, I think we've spoken this before. I think we want to. Sounds like a good idea to pursue. Just now that I think the timing is right to get in front of folks, kind of with whatever it is. If it's like a mini RFP, or just like just knock on their doors and say, hey, what do you guys think about about providing us with the service? I mean, we already have the bids that came in. And I think it would be maybe smoother and simpler if we just followed up with them, I think.
How do we handle that from a procurement process standpoint, Perry?
You're addressing, John. Who are you addressing?
Perry, but is muted.
Oh, Perry. All right, Perry. You're up, Perry.
You got your thoughts already?
Yeah, no, I'll have to check on that, John. I'm not sure.
Okay.
On this. I'm not sure what's wrong with my mute button either, but
yeah,
I'll have to get more information on that.
Mm.
The key thing also from the procurement side piece, which is the two things. One of which is how long a contract are we looking to get into? What's our minimum on the outs, and how are we going to work with a wraparound on Encore coming online?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's it. Well, I mean, once we know that, we can say, okay, this is the size of what we want to bid out. What process do we have to follow? Let's get it out there.
Well, the simplest part of it, of course, is just supplementing our power. That's easy.
Yeah.
And the reason, and on both sides, what makes it easy if we at least stick to the people who bid, we've already got their experience and their credits and all the other stuff. So it could be a real swell. I think I sent you something, Sam, that with my thoughts on it at some point, didn't I? A few weeks ago, a couple months ago.
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime.
I put some points out, but and John, the other thing is getting into the weeds a little bit. We can correct a lot of the early escape clauses by actually the contracts themselves. So the people, for instance, that I work with, they have a 6-month out, which is pretty nice. Okay. Other people have a year out. Some people have no out. Okay. So that can be solved. Even that initial thing can be solved that way.
I just think it's a question of, setting the parameter of what we might be willing to accept. If we have a minimum out period or a preferred one, you just fold it into the procurement process, and we could just discuss what we recommend.
As you know, the problem with finding the milestones of when we're going to be able to have this farm built is still an uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have to be a little general about what that sounds like and what that looks like. Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a problem. My hunch is, we've got electricity usage. We could start lowering the cost of, next month if we.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
And to me, it's like, okay, let's set the parameters and get it out there for people to bid on.
Okay.
If this is a procurement process question, it's just something that we should ask Matt. I'm happy to add it to my list.
Yeah.
Or Perry, do you have another idea about how to get some clarity around the process?
Matt was the person that I was going to go to. So yeah, if you want to, because it's a little different than the things that I bid out. So I don't want to answer for sure on that one.
Right.
We've actually had a conversation with Matt already. The three of us. If actually you and Perry was on there, and you. So I think he blesses it. It's just we probably want to ask him about procedure too, and what his thoughts are on that.
I think it's great. Basically, you locked Encore up. We've got that contracted. That's running now. Now we can do the wrap around of what's left. And if they're coming on late, we can account for that. This is great. This is exactly what we need to do. But now it's like, now we know what the shape of it is, and Encore's locked in, and we move, everything's approved. Let's go.
Yeah. I think we have to go as fast as we can. Okay. Well, let's.
Yeah, no reason to wait.
Let's talk. Okay.
So I'll get some specifics from Matt on kind of what process we should follow to get it done, and then report back, and we can.
So honestly. As long as the town has somewhere between a year and a 6-month out, it shouldn't be a problem. The town only funds itself every year, so it doesn't have the ability to adjust its budget a lot on the fly. So having a fixed cost is not a problem.
Okay, is Carrie going to get dessert? Was that what she's gone for?
She has young children, I believe. So
we still have quorum. Just for the record.
Yeah. I think it's Richard's turn to talk about the charger.
Yeah, let's move on from the solar. I think we got some good stuff.
Yeah.
The EV application is coming on strong. It's going to be due on the 1st, which is a week and a half now. The time flies, but I think we're getting pretty good. I have some updates on the installation quote part. We're less further along as I'd like, but Richard, do you want to, since you're kind of you're hearing this whole thing, want to guide us through where we are?
Yeah, well, what we I've gone back and can I share screen?
Yeah.
Harry?
You should be able to do it.
Okay. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
It's lying to you.
Mine has a green, mine says
There it goes.
I can
Okay.
share my screen. It looks
I
like
got it. Okay.
a green box there. Bottom. There we go.
All right. All right.
Good, very good.
There's two things that talk about it. We basically divided the work between Sam and myself. Sam is getting the installation quotes. I've worked on the equipment quotes and got questions along going with that. We have a meeting, a Zoom meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Sam, myself, Perry, and Matt, to basically finalize a lot of the questions that are in the application. And before we did that, I wanted to get the inputs, any input from this committee to see, make sure that your thoughts are included in our discussions for tomorrow. And the things I wanted to get your inputs on are identification of preferred vendor, identification of primary users. Some of this is pretty obvious, but we may have some thoughts. Who would be permitted to use, days of the week and hours of availability, payment for use, and what steps we're going to use to promote the use of the chargers. Now, before we get into those questions, let me give you a little bit of information about where we are from the standpoint of prices. We basically, I've got 3 equipment quotes that are coming, and after I get through this, Sam can talk about the installation stuff. But we've looked at Gray Bar, Charge Point, and Juice Bar. Now, Gray Bar, it's kind of interesting because Gray Bar basically uses Leviton equipment, and so does Charge Point. Gray Bar, of course, is located in Portland. And the thing that's kind of interesting there is that if you go through Gray Bar, the costs are about the same as you see here. But the big difference between Gray Bar and Charge Point is their sales pitch, and also whereas Charge Point really advocates the use of an annual maintenance contract. And I talked to Leviton and I've talked to Gray Bar. I talked to Leviton, the actual producers of the equipment, and they say, you know, it's a waste of money to have any sort of maintenance on things. The only thing that goes wrong on these things is if somebody screws up the cord. If somebody screws up the cord, we send you another one, and you know, you can either install it yourself or you can have an electrical contractor come in and do it. So they're just basically saying, you know, don't worry about the maintenance. And likewise with Juice Bar, they say the same thing. So really the difference between these two is not much, other than Charge Point has got a big reputation. They're recognized in the industry as a very reputable source, and they've got local installations. Juice Bar, the closest installation that I got, they have so far, they've got quite a few in New England, but the closest one they have to Portland is at the old Pease Air Force Base, wherever that's called now.
Yeah, the Brunswick Air Base, yeah.
Air Base.
Airport.
Yeah. So cost is a big issue here, but I think there's 2 things that there are different approaches here. I think for the application process, I think we need to consider which ones are going to probably carry more weight with Efficiency Maine. And what we ultimately put in, I think that may be different, because and Efficiency Maine has no problem with going with somebody else as long as they're a reputable company and they demonstrate that they can do the work. So I think that as far as in our discussion about preferred vendor, I think we need to talk about, you know, a strategy from the standpoint of what we think is most likely to give us approved contracts.
Hey, Richard, what does Juice Bar use for a product? Obviously, it's not Leviton, and is their product equivalent? Because obviously the prices are much better.
This is what ChargePoint uses, and you know they've got ChargePoint labeled here. This is what Graybar uses, which is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's Leviton up here, but they use Graybar uses the software from ChargePoint. And then this is JuiceBar. And you know, from what I've been able to determine so far, it looks like fairly good equipment. I mean, there's nothing, you know, just a little different format. But of course, they use different. We've got different software options with JuiceBar. ChargePoint makes a big deal about how their software is so good from the standpoint of all the reports you can get and all the different ways it'll optimize the charging of the vehicles that are connected and stuff like that. I'm not sure that makes a whole lot of difference to us. I'm not sure it's worth the price, but maybe worth you know, considering later on. But anyways.
Yeah, it seems like for the difference between the JuiceBar and the ChargePoint ones are kind of the user experience. The ChargePoint one has a nice little screen which tells you the steps to take and says, you know, step 1, you put in your credit card, or you know, step 2. Whereas it looks like the JuiceBar is basically just kind of you somehow engage. Not sure, but probably a little bit less sophisticated user interface. And people have to have you have to have downloaded the JuiceBar app on your phone to use it. I'm not sure if that's the same with ChargePoint or not. But you know, it seems like the ChargePoint is just more polished in that respect, but it's certainly is more expensive.
JuiceBar has basically, they use the one they use is their software is AmpUp Community Manager. They've got 3 different levels. They've got the basic, light, and the pro. And this is basically their what they charge for a 2-plug unit per month. And all of these software packages include the cellular content connect. So you don't have to worry about, there's no extra cost. They all tie into the cellular site. And so that's not an extra cost. It's just included in the software. And
location is important at Fort Williams then.
Yeah. And JuiceBar is the only one that offers also Wi-Fi, but they say the problem with the Wi-Fi is that if the Wi-Fi goes down, then you have to reinitiate it. And if someone forgets to reinitiate the chargers, then you know, you're out of luck. Whereas the cellular, it's all automatic. So I think we're talking probably cellular at both sites.
So would, if in JuiceBar, so we identified the problem with JuiceBar. One of them, I think one of them was the availability of any kind of local representative, right? They're 50 miles away or 60 miles away at this point. Do they actually contract people in this area to do their work? How would they actually do that?
I'm not sure there's that much difference between where the stuff is, the service is sourced from.
Okay.
I don't know what ChargePoint does. So,
you just mentioned it as a difference, you know, in terms of where they were. So I didn't know whether that becomes a consideration or not in the scheme of things. That's all.
But as far as interface goes, you know, there's the different programs they have has got different interface. And I really don't know how that would compare when you get down to it, how that compares with what ChargePoint has.
I guess on the user side, if you're going to drive up in your an electric car, how you interact with with the station is awesome. The ChargePoint one is a little bit more snazzy and polished, and this is more simple than JuiceBar. So yeah, I'm very curious to kind of see the JuiceBar in action. I was thinking about going up to Brunswick, check it out. But I have
JuiceBar have one up there? Does JuiceBar have one in Brunswick?
Yeah,
That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So before, I mean, we had these two quotes. So I think for application, Richard, do we present two quotes for equipment and also two quotes for installation, or two installation quotes and kind of one equipment quote?
Well, that's, that the problem, there's some ambiguity there. And if you look at, look at what the PDF says, that the PDF or the RFP indicates 2 vendors for equipment and 1 vendor for installation. But if you go to the application form, it says 2 for both.
Oh,
So
this is you'd ask this question, they couldn't answer.
So I went to efficiency main and I asked them, I says, could you please clarify this? And they came back and said, well, we're outside the question and answer period, so I can't answer them for you.
Yeah.
All I can do is refer you to these 2 documents
Oh,
that are
Contradict each other.
in conflict. So
you better
on the
get
other
2 and
hand,
2. You better get 2 and 2.
So we'll
Yeah.
go 2 and 2.
Yeah, I better be
Okay, so
safe.
we've got the two. We've got the 2 equipment ones. I guess we have to decide, what package we want, right? If it's the basic, monthly package or the fancy one. I don't think we need the pro version. And does ChargePoint have the same scales of kind of what their software looks like?
They haven't indicated. They haven't indicated. I haven't been able to.
Okay.
They've just proposed one.
It's probably the
One
pro is all. It's all or nothing. Yeah.
If you look at their prices, I would think that probably, if I go up here, their
The software.
package itself hasn't changed, just their payment plan changes.
Mhm.
So if you commit to 5 years and pay it up front, it's one price. If you pay it annually, then they take the annual price from the prepay and they add it up by 20%, which means you can
That's a
cancel it
lot.
anytime. But
Wow.
And if you commit to paying for 5 years, you can pay it annually, and it's 11,600 per year.
Yeah.
These are questions that once we get the rebate, if we get the rebate, these are questions that the town is just going to have to get into when they decide just which options they want to pick, and what's best for cash flow, et cetera. So that's not something I don't think we have to be worried about at this point. That's a question further on down the road. It's just a matter of just assembling some of this information so the town can go at this with their eyes open. So I don't think you want to get into. So the question before we get into getting your ideas or getting your input on some of this, Sam, you want to talk about what's happening, where you stand with installation quotes?
Yeah. Today I met with Casco Bay Electric, and it seemed like kind of their reaction was nonchalant about the whole thing. I mean, it seems like the community center services building is very straightforward. Where we're looking, there are 4 or 5 parking spots, just 10 feet away from the back of the building, where all the equipment is. So they're just going to, they look like they measure that and kind of they'll get us information. And the Fort Williams site is still is pretty straightforward too, just a little bit longer. So the timing, isn't great because they can get our numbers back to us by middle or end of next week. So we don't really have any numbers to look at until we have to submit the application. They could only give us a quote for just the electric work. So I'm not sure. We'll have to come up with a quote of actually installing the equipment into the ground, laying the concrete pad or whatever. And that wasn't something that the electrician they're not able to do. So do we have our own? Can we do that internally? I mean, does can Perry get some guys out, to build a concrete pad and drill these things into into it? And
Yeah, that's what I was thinking originally when I had put that CB quote in, because it's such a small job to do. I could either do it in-house, or, if my guys were tied up, I have a contractor that tackles smaller jobs for me. It would be a minimal cost. Both jobs are such minor amount of work that I was just going to put into the capital improvements budget I don't know, I haven't put a number to it yet, but let's say I put in $1,500 or $2,000 in the budget for each site just to cover the costs. That's not uncommon for projects that we do in both the town and the school.
Right, the only question I have, and I'm not going to get an answer to this from Efficiency Maine, is what do we enter in? We're supposed to have quotes. If we just say no price for these or whatever, I'm not sure, just say that, just include the installation stuff. And because in the application, there is we can talk about this tomorrow. There's a slot for this where they're asking for a number. So we'll have to discuss tomorrow just how we're going to do it if we're not going to get a formal quote.
Isn't Perry's estimate, he's the town facilities director. He probably knows as well as anyone what it'll cost.
Yeah,
so
but
is he allowed to make a quote?
Yeah, if he could make a quote that we could attach, that would do it. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you only need one significant figure accuracy, maybe two for an estimate.
And just do it as an in-house project.
Yeah.
We'll label it done in-house.
Good. So I took some pictures to do. I can send this to you, Richard. But is this kind of your some of the prep that you're doing for the applications? Looks pretty nice.
This is the prep that they asked for photos of the site.
Yeah, nice.
So
Very good.
This one then.
So yeah, that was
I
that
did
was
talk
Cass.
to,
Go ahead.
This is just a couple more.
Yeah, we're thinking putting them next to the handicap spots, not pushing the handicap spots up, which is fair. It'll require a little bit more conduit, but I think that's the right thing to do. Plus, those curb cuts are already in there for the handicap spots.
Yeah. Anyways, there's 99 parking spaces at Fort Williams and 88 in the actually there's 88 in this one, which is, but also also someone would use.
Mm-hmm. And I earlier had mentioned that back at the community center where the site is, that's been used by the daycare a lot, this year. I'd hate to have to say that the kids can't run around, on those spots because we'll have to have them open for, people who want to come and charge their car while they're at the IGA or whatever.
These aren't used at all?
They have, and they've released. Today they were empty, but the past few weeks, when it's been warmer in the past few months, there've been kids running around all over that parking lot.
Oh, these are the only two handicapped in that area, in that parking lot.
Yeah,
so I think they'd be used.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's if kind of the fact that the kids use that parking lot as a playground because there isn't one otherwise for the daycare. So if that's a consideration that we should keep in mind.
Well, the question is also, if you're not able to use it because the kids run around, where would you move it to? And would there be a significant cost differential? Because if the answer to where you're going to move it and the cost differential isn't that big, submit the bid as is, and we can change it down the line because it's not going to be that big a difference.
The way the way they do this is they approve an amount. Let's say our total cost comes into something where the rebate that they approve is $15,000. Okay. what they actually pay is pay actual cost. They base their payment on actual cost. So if we approve 15,000, they approve 15,000, and it turns out that going through the calculations, it's 14,000. They end up actually paying 14,000.
Yeah.
If our costs are more than that, they won't pay any more than what they've approved. So, you know, we could put, once we get it approved, we could put it in East Gish, but we're just gonna have to pay the cost associated with it, that's all.
Well,
So,
well, that's why I was just saying, what's the, if you did have to move it, what would be the differential in cost, if any?
well, basically the town would have to pay the differential.
I know, but I'm saying, we haven't
You're
picked
asking
the site yet. I'm saying, what would be the differential if you moved it to a different, slightly different spot next to the community center?
It'd be a function of the length of the conduit they'd have to run.
Where's it coming from?
It's coming from right, and the community center is coming from right on the other side of that back wall.
Right close to the back wall.
So it's as short a distance as you can possibly get.
So if you just
where
moved
Richard's
it to that
hand is.
lot where it's coming out of, you'd save money.
What's that? What'd you say, John?
So if you actually just moved it to the teacher's parking lot, you'd save money.
Over here?
Yeah, somewhere in the corner where it comes out. Just put it.
But where Richard's hand is where
Yep.
all the that's where the panel is.
Yeah, there's no
Okay.
power in the faculty lot. Aside
Well, I thought you said, where does it come out? That's what I was saying. Where you're running the conduit from?
Right
Yeah,
here.
right where Richard's
Okay.
hand is.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it would be a fairly significant expense to run it much further, but you know, anyway, that's just a thought. You know, do this, yeah. If we build it there, does that create some sort of, you know, problem? We're in conflict with the poor kids, you know, who need to run around during their recess.
Is this recess use of the parking lot, is this a like all the time thing, or is this a COVID thing?
No, I don't know. It's certainly a COVID thing.
I'm going to lean more towards that's a COVID thing. They do have a playground down at the high school that they use. You can see it in the bottom left-hand corner of that picture. There's a
Oh, is that theirs?
that's
Oh,
their
I've seen-
playground. Don't ask me, I didn't put it there, but that's theirs.
Oh, I'd seen that playground and I wondered why it was there. It was,
Right,
Yeah,
high school.
no, that's the community services playground. You'll find
Yeah.
them down there in the later afternoon hours.
Okay. Yeah.
So if we had to move them to the spots that are sort of facing the barrier between the IGA and the parking lot, that I think you could probably do that, not interfere with the kids, and it wouldn't be that much expense. You're talking about another 20 feet of conduit.
Yeah, that run facing, you know, that abuts the IGA parking lot.
yeah, I was wondering about the same spot, sort of.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a huge addition. Yeah, there's a little kind of a corner of grassy area there that could easily feed both, you know that area. So anyway, yeah. So in terms of time getting in quote, Richard, it's going to be about late next week from the Casco Bay people, and so we'll have.
Are they gonna include excavation and all that stuff and the bollards and stuff, or is that something Perry's gonna have to come up with a price for?
Yeah, and it's the same. They'll do the electric work. So for any kind of the mechanical kind of ripping up ground, that sort of thing, I don't think that's included in their quote. But Perry, that could be. I mean, it would be the same work, right? So
Right,
that would be stuff that you guys can do, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I guess in order to meet the you look at the prices that they're asking for. The neat prices probably for construction cost. And I don't know who's going to mount it. We can talk about this tomorrow Perry, but anyways, what prices we put in here, et cetera, we're gonna have to get a quote from you.
Could you, let me look at this. Okay. So are they just looking for a price, or do they want an actual written estimate?
Well, we have to, I think we have to have, according to they want to bid price quotes.
Okay.
So,
I'll just write it up that way then.
okay, all right. Well, all right, we can talk about this tomorrow as well. Anyways, your thoughts on preferred vendors? Should we put in, ChargePoint as the first one and then Juice Bar as the second one at this point? You think that's going to have the most credibility? They're more expensive by quite a bit.
I think that works well. I think you put in ChargePoint and Juice Bar, and if later you decide to use Leviton, use Gray Bar instead of ChargePoint, I think it's no big deal.
Yeah, we should ask in the application. We should, put in for the most expensive, frankly, system, and then if we feel like scaling back, then that's fine. But if we ask for basically a lower amount, for our cost, and we want the upgraded version, then we're out of pocket.
Yep.
So yeah, let's assume that we want the platinum package, and we may not need it, but at least that way we'll have flexibility. That's my thinking.
I guess the only other
primary
thing to
users.
that is, are they selecting projects based on the lowest cost?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be in the ballpark.
The question becomes is from the standpoint which is more important to these guys, credibility or cost? Would they be more apt to give us the rebate if we submit a lower price? Or if
I don't think so.
No.
My guess is if we submitted, for example, ChargePoint being like the nicest, if you will. I mean, that's not like a Rolls Royce. That's like a Volvo. So I think it's a reasonable option for us to consider.
Hey, Sam, is that a gray area, or will they allow anything within a certain price range? Or is there no kind of, is that completely gray where they will accept it? As long as you've done the paperwork properly, you get a legitimate player, a certified UL, whatever, and you get all of what they're looking for. Do they have any kind of judgment at that point, or is it kind of first come, first serve for the money?
I don't know, Richard. Do you have a sense? You've sat through and kind of read more of the documents and have a feeling. My guess is that as long as the paperwork is in order, they're not going to nitpick over Falmouth has they wanted a Juice Bar, which is less expensive than Keep wants the ChargePoint, so we'll give it to Falmouth. I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, Sam, the reason why I'm asking for this usually is either one or two things. They'll either accept, it's usually, they have so much money, they spend it, it's done.
Yeah, look at the
third line first, and you've done your paperwork properly, as long as there's no upward limit.
Yeah.
Okay, you should go for the more expensive one. I mean,
that second bullet does talk about cost comparisons.
Well, okay. So if that's what they want to see, then you have to do that anyway. That's fair, okay? But if you have two, you take the two highest bids. I mean, that's what you're trying to say, right? So there's no out of pocket if you go to the lower bid later. But as far as them making a judgment based on whether you're presenting one kind or the other, or let's put it this way, they're not going to eliminate you because you've chosen something that's a little more expensive than something else. That's what I was trying to get at. So
I think if it's reasonable, it says, is the estimated project cost reasonable when compared to similar EV charger projects?
Right.
I don't think there's any reason why what we would
My
propose would be unreasonable.
my estimate is that they're going to roll these out in a series of solicitations. They've got this Volkswagen money to spend. They've got to get the stations out. They want credible stations as widely spread as possible. And I don't think they're going to nickel and dime for the cheapest charging stations. I think they want to get credible providers. As we're likely to get cut from 2 sites to 1 site, just because they've got too many, but not because we're high cost. That's my gut feeling. So
Yeah.
So I would.
Has anybody asked the users of the juice bar thing how they like it?
If not,
Okay.
But Sam is going to go up there and actually try one out, right?
Yeah, I'll go up to Brunswick and check it out just to see how it how it looks and feels.
Is it in the town, like a town-owned facility, or is it a commercial?
I think it's at the airport parking lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's public. Yeah.
okay. If you can figure out which software package it uses, that'd be good too, Sam.
Yeah.
Oh, under the hood a little bit.
I have a sort of a friend down in Massachusetts has had EVs for a long time, so I thought it might be worth getting his opinion both on charging stations he likes or doesn't like.
Yeah, I've been driving an EV for a couple of years, and I've never seen Juice Bar. I've never even heard of Juice Bar, to be honest.
He's down in the Massachusetts area, so he may have had experience with a wider variety.
Yeah, but ChargePoint is definitely the brand name that everyone recognizes.
All right.
Awesome. The users. That's an interesting question. Primary users. The thought there being, should we be in a position to discriminate who gets to use this? We can't, can we? By through the application itself. I mean, we have to let everybody use it because it's public money, right? Or what are you thinking there with this question?
Well, I think we can probably say that, anybody that, that accesses it, but, the primary users probably for the Fort Williams are going to be tourists, the general public and local.
So I think, you want to basically say, this is the most visited tourist spot in Maine. We expect the primary users to be, motor vehicle tourists. Because those are primary use and, some local residents.
And Matt is getting some traffic numbers for us to put in for how many people visit the park, a year. So those numbers will go in.
Okay,
and he's also getting for the school, for the community center, he's getting number of employees in school, and also can get put in students there too, because that lot also has student parking in it. So,
love the idea of the community services lot. If there were a way to provide as a perk to teachers, maybe into staff, that they could charge a car for free, while they're there. I'm not sure how much it would cost as a benefit that the town would have to pay out, but that would be a nice thing, to be able to say we could do, is to offer teachers, this.
I have a naughty question for you. I'm thinking that this may be, why are we having 4 versus 6 versus 8 versus some other number? And the only reason why I asked that question is I'm just thinking, for instance, I got a Ford, no big deal, but they're coming out with 5 electric cars next year. Well, if you think about next year seems to be the year where the things are going to start exploding. And of course, I think the limiting factor is that gas prices are so cheap. But for the most part, we're going to see an upward trend. We'll have to. Do we have we picked these 2 locations because of their public and all this other stuff, or have we thought about, or there's only so much money available, or how do you come to that particular conclusion as to certain amount versus a certain amount and basically
Probably the best, the most significant one, I think, was when Matt said, let's go with 4, see how they're used, and then in the future, if we want to add more, we always can.
That's actually a good answer. Yeah, that would be the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because we had spoken previously in our last committee meeting. We kind of thought that 8 would be a great number to have at Fort Williams, and we mentioned that to Matt, and he was like, "Let's start with 4."
Well, maybe not at Fort Williams, all of them, of course. I mean, I was thinking you were talking about the condo being large, going too far, but with the teacher's parking lot, we get a lot, and even future, even though it's not public, could be made public. I'm thinking across from the city town hall with a whole new whatever shopping center, park, and all that's going to go on. You're going to get a lot of private users probably going to be looking at something like that. Plus, this town, again, with the demographics we have, we're probably going to have our share of electric cars here as we go along.
Yeah, you see a lot of. I'm aware of the time, 15 minutes before 8:30.
Yep.
And
one of the things I think I'd like to get people's input on is they're interested in steps to promote the usage. And of course, you have to have signage up and to direct people to them. But there's also, we probably put it on the town website. There's also what other places can you advertise the availability of these?
Dealerships who are selling electric cars.
What's that?
But they'd love to put them up. In other words, if you were a dealer in the area, you were going to put an electric car out next year, and there'll be a lot, as I say, I think, they would probably want to know for their customers where those charging stations were. And that's a direct shot.
They'll say use some app is what they do. Or some of the newer cars, fancier ones, might really have an app built in. Into the
well,
screen.
they might, but how do you get onto that app? The idea, so how does that app know you're there?
If you're a charger station, how do they know that you're there?
Yeah, how would they find that out?
Well, if it's a charge point, it's a network, so you become part of the charge point network.
Yeah. That's fair. But as I say again, it being a very direct response. I think that a dealer would love to do that for you. Almost as a direct attention. It's just another way. That's all.
Yeah, I think signage is good.
Town website.
Town website, absolutely.
Yeah, of course. People who have these cars are going to find them anyway because they need to have them.
But efficiency main wants to know what steps we'll take. Is that right?
Yeah. I thought you said you would have one of those boards over your shoulder, and you're going to go those two things you flip.
Sandwich board.
I think one of the key aspects of both locations is actually on-site signage, because they're both. It's like I said, the one at Fort Williams is like you've got throughput there for traffic is just enormous. So if you're commit to signage that indicates that there's electric charging stations there, and there's only one entrance you drive in, that's huge. And similar, if you've got a signage in the center, somewhere near the center of town, also that's where the traffic is in town. That's between that and covering it on the town websites. I think.
Yeah, and Fort Williams has its own website as well.
Yeah. So you can use all of those.
All right.
But with 4 of them, you're going to have them filled up pretty fast, especially for the town where they went up in town. Yeah. At least to the.
How much of this stuff do you guys want to see? Do you want me to send you?
Sunday night before it's due, or I guess Monday night.
I think you're doing a fine job.
Richard, I am happy to see the introduction you have so far. It really is really helpful. I mean, just to talk about where they're going and the numbers, I think that's great. I mean,
If you want it as a helpful eye, I'm happy to do that. I don't feel the need to get into the
no,
detail. I think you're doing a fantastic job. Just go, go, go. So to the extent you want people to, say, take a look at this and see if it makes sense or that kind of thing, happy to.
yeah, I'm with
Yeah,
you
I
on
feel
that.
the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
I only want to be helpful, so whatever's helpful, but I trust you guys to.
I just want to be the first one to use it if I get an electric car next year.
Of course, the question is, the problem is that everything takes longer with COVID. That's one thing. And also, we've got the holidays coming up. We're eating up a time from the standpoint of, which is affecting or impacting Sam's installation quotes. So, we don't, there's not a, we're supposedly 2 weeks away, but we're really not. I mean, and
So, yeah.
Matt wants to be the one to send in the applications. So we've got to assemble all this stuff and get it to him. And then he's got to sign it and turn it around and send it in.
Yep. All right. Whatever help you need, people. I think I'm certainly willing to pitch in. I'm sure the others are as well. So just let us know.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, I appreciate that, but I'm not. I just want to emphasize. I think we're on a pretty tight timeline here. So even though.
Yeah, go with it. Don't. Yeah, sometimes our inputs slow you down quite easily. Yeah.
Anything else you wanted input on specifically, Richard?
I don't think so. I think we've got, as I said, we've got a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Perry, Sam, and Matt, and that's where we're going to be entering numbers into the application, trying to put some final numbers in. So that's and then that should get us to where we need to be. And the only thing we'll be needing is just the any sort of the installation quotes that Sam is coming up and any construction quotes that Perry's got to come up with. So that'll be fine.
And the narrative, parts where we, explain why we're such a worthy town for this money. And we can all, Richard, you and I and Matt can work that out.
There's not a lot of place for verbiage in the application. So.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm really excited. I think this is going to be great. I know when they have a report about their this program, our lighthouse is going to be on the front of it. So that's good. That feels pretty cool. I mean, I think it's going to be
a well-used station, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that thing's going to just go busting out.
They may even say, please take 4 more. We'll see.
Yeah.
Charge $1 a kilowatt hour. Hey.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, Richard, I do want to thank you. Yeah, publicly for all the work that you did on this and are doing.
You're doing stuff as well, Sam. It's installation stuff is a little bit harder to get your hand around. I think.
That's kind of the garnish on top, I think. But yeah.
Garnish.
At some point, we should get a solar panel to go with each station too.
Yeah.
Barbara, that's really interesting. That's there you go.
You know how they have those little solar panels?
Hey, I gotta before you guys leave, I gotta tell you something really funny. I'm excited. I went by this place. I think it was in Solon on my way up to Jackman, and I saw this huge Trump sign out front, and behind it were 5 or 6 solar panels for sale, sitting on a lawn. And I got a picture of it. I thought that was kind of interesting. But they were just looked like they came from somewhere. They had nothing with them, just panels. They looked like they'd be great for coffee tables. But they were stacked, all this just junked all over there with a big Trump Pence sign right in the middle of it. I just got this.
I'm not saying this is the case, but when they were starting to install big solar fields in California, they had a real problem with people just driving up with trucks and ripping out panels and
how about the copper?
driving off with them because the supply was super short. They could.
Yeah. That's why they have electric fences now. Anyway, I had to share that one with you.
Awesome. Well, this is great. I think I'm excited by all these all these kind of, yeah, the everything that we're working on. I mean, like we got to the solar and the EV stuff. I think it's, clearly
Yeah,
impressive.
Sam, just before we close, I just wanted to make, John and I did meet to talk about
Oh, cool.
goals for the town, and I put something very rough together and sent it back to him yesterday, so I'm sure he hasn't had time to look at it.
I had a chance to look at it. I didn't have a chance to write up a commentary. I was just going to, I think sharing a brief overview of sort of where you were at, I think would be a little helpful. And so, hold on, I have her document somewhere here. So Carrie sort of looked at what some of the goals of other towns are around the space, and sort of started there, and referred also to some of, I think it was Boston's goals. Is that right?
Yeah, I just looked at Portland and South Portland, and then in Boston's plan, because I found that one quickly. I didn't get to spend that much time yet, but
yep. Yeah. The other thing, and I was just going to add this on to sort of what Carrie had talked about. So from a 10,000 foot view, some of the climate stuff we're talking about is probably beyond the remit of the Energy Committee, because there's a lot of green stuff that reaches beyond just energy. So there's a scope issue in terms of setting out your green goals that go well beyond just energy, and things like just overall efficiency, waste, green space access, green jobs, those kind of things. And that's sort of pulling from Vancouver's plan. And then there was Carrie had some things in there that you can measure, and what you measure and how often you measure to sort of keep you on track. And you look at it certainly on the energy side, you're looking at often you're looking at greenhouse gases and carbon footprint, but there's some other ones that you can measure depending on what you're looking at. And then the other one, which was, and this hasn't been in a lot of people's plans, but I thought it's worth thinking about, partly because it came up with the electric charging stations, which is positioning yourself within the climate space and green space, energy space, as a leader and an early adopter, particularly where there are grants available for adoption. I think the electric charging vehicles one is a great example of that, where it's something that is come of age, and there are grants to help support adoption of it, and and the town takes a position that it wants to be a place that will be a leader, particularly when it's supported, as opposed to a follower. It's just sort of like what your technology strategy is. They're all fine, but you should kind of pick one and know who you are. So that was, and then that was some of the.
Yeah, I'd say we were kind of at the rough stage of a discussion, but it seemed like from at the highest level, the town would have some kind of goal that was tied to the town strategic plan, and then that would flow to a climate goal for the town, and then that would flow to the goal for our committee, and then things we were going to be measuring, and so we have a lot of things to fill out, but that's kind of what
we've been pushing up as opposed to them pushing down, that's for sure, in terms of they basically, when they started, and as they do a lot of committees, it says go ahead and do your thing, and we'll accept it and not accept it, and we really don't have a plan as to what you're going to do, but just do something green and wonderful, right? And I think that's always with this type of committee. So what you're suggesting, which is kind of really interesting, is that, hey, once you guys get organized and really decide what you guys want to do, really, and because we've always gone back to them and begged them for stuff like that, right? For guidance.
I think that the Portland and the South Portland goals are a real opportunity for us to, because I think their goals, like I just looked at their goals and I was like, we should adopt these. And those aren't necessarily, like, they're really long-term goals. So we can have goals of our committee that are maybe a little different. Like, what we've been doing is basically trying to find ways to save money and reduce energy use or reduce emissions, or adopt new technologies like electric vehicles. So I think we're sort of doing the intermediate steps for those long-term goals, but we don't have it written down anywhere that that's
Right.
what we're doing. So,
So, Sam and I and my husband and a bunch of other people started the climate action group where we were going to come up with this kind of a plan, and working with GP Cog to they're going to help us do a whole town climate action plan.
oh yeah, so yeah, Sam had, I think you guys had both had mentioned that. So
Yeah.
I don't know if John and I are going down a road that we should wait on, that's fine too.
So I think this is really, it is helpful, Carrie, because partly also I look back at the town's 2020 goals that they passed last March. So they're still sort of in effect. But part of what they were doing, and they may circle back to it, is they were really looking at how to get greener relative to their comprehensive plan, and looking, including with their staffing and other things that needed to be addressed. And what that meant to me was they maybe, within their town goals broadly, they might consider having on a shared basis, like they do with some other functions, a sustainability manager, which would really be their purview to look at all this sort of broader types of stuff. And that would, and so where we're going is a great starting point for that, for if you're starting to fill out that function.
Yep.
So Sam, GP Cog is actually going to help us do this, right?
Yeah, so yeah, they want to. I think the mechanics are still a little bit up in the air. I think they're asking for us to fundraise for their effort a little bit. So I think GP Cog and Matt have spoken about that a little bit. I'm not quite sure where they are, but I think Matt has to come up with a budget that the town wants to chip into the effort. But so that's I think it's the only, at this point, the only thing kind of holding at least kind of the kicking off of that process is for us to pay into GP Cog at some sort of amount to get them on board with us. So
it's worth looking at. I really like the breadth of Vancouver's green goals, so that's worth people taking a look at.
Yeah, I think it might not be like, it's probably a good idea for us to gather information from other communities, and then we can see.
You can sort of say more like this, not like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And tailor it to the size of our town and the demographics of our town.
Yeah.
One of the things I really liked that resonated with Vancouver and Cape Elizabeth for me was also they actively measured access to green space as part of their goal, and that really sort of seemed to resonate with a lot of what people in this town care about, and as well as green jobs, and particularly with a growing number of remote workers, partly COVID related, but some of that's going to stick. And Cape Elizabeth is an ideal town for that, but they measured that because it has a big climate impact if you're able to travel less and work more remote and those sorts of things. So they sort of measured green jobs, and for Cape Elizabeth,
I
it's
turned my
probably
heat
remote
up
work.
so much today.
What?
Well, just being at home, I turned my heat up so much.
Mm-hmm.
When we're not here all day.
Yeah, our home heat energy bills, I think, have all gone up dramatically over the past 6 months and 8 months. So, yeah, there's that. But no, I think it's great. I think the idea of having these high level goals for the town, and then as an energy committee, kind of how do we interact with those? How do we make sure that?
I think that's something that we can think about too, because it's like these long-term goals, and then how do we fit in between, and how does that guide our actions? I think would be important to have a sense of for our committee. And actually, the other thing I want to mention is I think that Tom and I were supposed to be looking into the energy efficiency audits, and so I did actually email Tom about that, and I hadn't heard back. So that's I was just going to pursue it on my own, and then I just got busy and I didn't do it. But I haven't forgotten. I do have the list of buildings from Perry, and so I'll get to that.
Well, thank you for thinking of that, Kyle, over the past few weeks, and so Yeah, we'll have to, yeah, we'll give Tom a hard time. But yeah, I think, yeah, it's certainly worth looking into. Do you need any help with that, Carrie? That you want to assign?
I guess
or-
I think I just need to remember what it was. So I have the list of the buildings for sure, and then I just need to figure. I think we had found a list of companies to contact as well. So I think I'm okay, but I'll reach out to you all if I can't find the energy efficiency, like the audit companies to contact, because that's the big.
Yeah, the Efficiency Maine has a list.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
hadn't gone back to look at it.
Yeah, I can find it. If you can't find it, I can
Okay.
send it to you. It's in a category they call approved vendors, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you'll be able to find it.
They got a bunch of categories on their site that you can look through vendors for what they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah, partners, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Any other announcements? I should have asked them ahead of time if there are any other agenda items to include. But are we feeling fulfilled
I am. Yeah.
tonight? Okay.
I am. I've been on a Zoom conference today, and then I had another Zoom conference from 4 to 6.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
So I just had one thing to sort of add to your list of the many things you talked to Matt about.
Oh, yes.
Which is in general, it looks like the town's doing a more active job of sort of managing its PR and communications, and how we coordinate with some of that and potentially leverage that. Because I think a bunch of the things we're doing are now and in the next couple of months are of interest. And so how do we coordinate and leverage that? I mean, right down to Richard's, how are you going to promote your charging stations? Well, what is our town communications policy? What are we doing there? You know, just seeing the coverage in the Press Herald and other places and just in social media, the people are interested in what we're doing and how do we interface and leverage that.
Right. Is there a comprehensive sort of, you know, is there some sort of strategy, you know, to get the most out of it as a town?
How do we coordinate? How does the town leverage what we've got into their communications approach? We don't want to create more work, but we don't want to miss opportunities.
Good. All right, I'll make a note of that. Good. Does anybody want to put forth a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
We need anything else? We have to any public comment? No public comment. Okay. I'm trying to keep track of the agenda. Okay.
I'll
All right.
second.
Any seconds? All right. So moved. Motion is accepted. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Craig, for staying up.
Thanks especially Richard and Sam, the electric